Right, let's see if that's worked. Aha, I'm showing us live. Perfect. Okay. Right, I am now in Aalborg with my truck. 530 horsepower, XG model. Yep, this is a brand new one by DAF. There's a few niggles with it, but like for example that shadow there. Here. There's that gap there. As you can see, there's no gap there, but there's a gap in the shadow there. So that's something that they'll probably need to address. I mean, I'll go through it with a fine-tooth comb later on, but this is it. This is my ride for tonight as we go about a trucking through time. So let's get find my trailer. Refrigerated double container carrier. So what are these container carriers? Cool liner. Right, don't want that one. I want... No, can't use that. I think... copy... config... to... that one. Right, that's that done. Trailer manager... Oh, trailer manager. No, trailer manager. Oh, trailer manager. There we go. Yeah, it's now the right color. So what I need to do now is make that stock. Make those stock. Actually, no, I'll go with vanity, I think. Bump. And now Raven and duty gloss. Duty gloss. Put that on. Put that on. Put that on. And put that on. And put that on. Use. Yay, I will now take my trailer. Right, I am now officially a box rat. So, where do we go from here? Let's pick the job up, shall we? Okay. Latvia, Switzerland, Arnhem, Netherlands, Malmo, Kristiansand, Herschels, Lillehammer, Hamburg, Naantali, Finland. Okay, Pori, Finland, Trondheim. That's kind of going the wrong way. Aalborg to where? Oh, Genoa. Okay, I don't really want to go to Genoa. I kind of want to make myself over towards the UK. So, Herning. I'll take those from Herning. So, here's what I've got. That sounds quite nice, actually. Now, I've not gone with the camera mirrors on this XF because I'm not a fan of digital mirrors. I'd rather have glass. Because if somebody comes out the down the road and smacks your mirrors and completely destroys them, or cracks them, you've still got some residual glass that you can still use. You've got a backup. However, if you've got a digital system, and someone wipes your mirror out, and takes it out, well, you're knackered. So, let's get trucking through time. And today we are going back to 1957. Wind scale. Now, wind scale is the home of the UK nuclear industry. So it's now in a place called Sellafield, just near a village called Seascale. And in 1957, we were working on our own project to build our own atomic bomb. Okay, well, America's got them, Russia's got them, so why shouldn't a power in the Atlantic Alliance, like the United Kingdom, have one? Well, the Americans wouldn't give us, so we all thought we'll make our own. So we need enriched uranium and a few other things to make the bomb. Well, that's what wind scale was all about, and what wind scale was 2 air-cooled, graphite-moderated nuclear reactors. And they were through channel type, completely flat design. You put fuel in the front, it does its thing, gets enriched, gets spat out the back. Well, graphite it's alright as a moderator, but it's not the best. Water's the best. And they went with natural air cooling because it was thought that if they'd had a loss of cooling incident, we would have a major nuclear catastrophe on our hands. Well, the idea was then, if you're using air cooled, it's going to be a lot safer. You're not going to get an explosion. Still get a fire though, which is what happened. Now, the design of the reactor at wind scale was such that it tended to heat up unevenly because of something called Wegener energy. Now I'm not a physicist, so I'm not really clued up on exactly what Wegener energy is. All I know is that if it gets pent up, you need to get rid of it. So what they started doing is annealing the graphite, and what they to eventually cause the release. And on the 7th of October, they noticed that it was heating up abnormally. So they ordered one of these Wegener releases, and it did something, but it didn't quite work as according to plan. So they ordered a second one, and rather than just one channel heating up, oh look, the entire lot started to heat up. Well, if that's the case, then it appeared to be doing its job. I've not been down here. And that's what they thought, you know. It's going okay, it's going good. And they thought the reactor was running normal and the energy had been released. Well, yeah, it had. But more about that later. And this went on for a little while, you know, the energy had gone down. On the 10th, the core temperature was, well, it should have gone down. It was going up. Well, that certainly wasn't what they planned. You know, the reactor is beginning to get a little bit warm. So what do you do? You turn the fans on. And as a result, the fans start to blow air onto the reactor. Well, it wasn't long before the chimney stack at the back of the reactor picked up a radiation spike. Lovely. And they figured it may well be that, you know, a canister spat out the back, landed on the bottom and cracked. Nope. Yeah, a couple of cartridges were thought to have burst, but no. So a few people went to have a look at it, you know, a few staff members. And they noticed the back of the reactor, it was, well, it was glowing. It shouldn't be glowing. You know, there's a significant amount of heat had built up and the graphite had caught fire. Well, some of the uranium had initially caught fire and that set the graphite on fire. And it was like, oh dear, what the hell do we do now? Our bloody reactor's on fire. Well, that's going to affect things. Yeah, and just across the road from Windscale, there was Calder Hall. Well, it hadn't started to cool down with the fans. In fact, it is, well, you know, feeding the fire with oxygen. You've got the heat, source of ignition, and you got the fuel, and you got oxygen there. You put all three together, you got the fire triangle, and yeah, all three had come together. It's like, okay, well, this new reactor that has been built at Calder Hall to provide power to the grid and make some enriched uranium on the side. No, we never told anybody that, but that was the actual plan for Calder Hall. It was cooled by carbon dioxide. Now, carbon dioxide is great for putting out fires. Well, let's use that. So you hooked a small hose up and blasted it, the core with CO2. However, it wasn't very effective. In fact, it was a little bit less than effective. It just didn't cool the fire. I was like, okay, well, what now? I mean, I've got water. Now, there's always a risk with nuclear fires that when molten uranium and water come together, well, what happens is it can split the water down and just rip the oxygen out of the water. That leaves the hydrogen there, which is hot. Potential for an explosion. So they had to be they had to be careful. So that's the last thing they want, you know. A hydrogen explosion going off and setting the bloody reactor on. Well, they didn't want an explosion, put it that way, so they had to be very, very careful. And you had to look on top of the, you know, with the hoses hooked up and what have you. You had to look on top, these engineers did. Well, it was, yeah, okay, it's having some effect. But it still hadn't properly begun to cool down. So then when the order was given to shut the fans down, now your fire triangle, you've got heat, oxygen and fuel. Your fuel's a graphite at this point, plus the uranium. Now uranium should not burn. It should just get mildly warm. You've got the air coming through and you've got, you know, that's two sides, and you've got the heat. Put all three together, you've got a fire. Take any one of those out and the fire should, in theory, go out, because you've broken the fire triangle. Well, sure enough, the reactor, it began to cool. And the fire did eventually go out. Yeah, the net result was then you left it in there, left the pipes on for a little while just to drench the core of the reactor, just to cool it off, make sure it was completely out. Because some of the byproducts that could happen were pyrophobic. Also pyrophoric, sorry, get my words right, where they will spontaneously combust with air. You know, that's the last thing you want is a nuclear reactor. Whilst I'm sitting here talking to you, my mother's downstairs and she is cooking something. I can smell onions cooking, so I think we might be having burgers. Now, when they were building Windscale, the plan was to have just straight stacks. However, with the thought of the cartridges potentially splitting when they came out the back, they decided to build some filters on the top of these chimneys, some distance up. You know, they're quite high up the stack, which is why there appears to be a observation tower from the top of the Sellafield chimneys. They were kind of iconic for Sellafield. And what they, you know, in there were these, you know, these filters, and they were there to catch any radioactive particulate. They called them, I think it was Cockcroft's Follies. Well, they'll never work. It is actually thought that they stopped 95% of the radioactive particulates that day when the reactor caught fire. Well, after the fire was out, there had been no other operations. They actually shut the 2 reactors down. They deemed them too dangerous to use. And then uranium production for the nuclear bomb and plutonium production switched to Calder Hall. Yeah, the Magnox reactors. Using the Magnox then to, in certain mode, to generate an amount of basically just generate your plutonium for the nuclear bomb. In all, when Windscale 1 caught fire, there's 2 reactors identical to each other at Windscale. There was 11 tons of uranium on fire. 11 tons of stuff. You know, released about 20,000 curies of radiation into the surrounding area, and it was a 5 on the nuclear event scale. Chernobyl was about a 6 or a 7. Complete catastrophic failure of the containment vessel. But this was back in the 1950s, where nuclear power was in its infancy. Yeah. Nuclear energy and nuclear weapons. I mean, we're only just a few years away. You know, a few years after bloody Hiroshima and Nagasaki. But lessons were learned on those days. And that was the only major nuclear incident involving a reactor on the UK. Ah, right. How the fuck did I do mine? Have you installed all the drivers? Hang on, I'm being called for my dinner. Yeah, hang on! Right. When, let me just also part this load. Okay, continue. Right. Options. Controls and buttons. So go. I'll just leave it here. Right. I'll be back in a minute, Cat. I'll just go get my dinner and I'll see if I can help you with that. Right, Cat, you back with me? I'll Discord for a second. No, that black block is part of the grip mechanism. You can't actually remove that. It's all part of the thing. It's meant to be there. Right. Go to this screen. There's this one here. Controls. Yeah, mine's still got those feet on. I didn't like that. They're also handy as well when you want to run cables through them. They make very convenient cable ducts. Right. What you want on the top is keyboard plus G29 driving force wheel. Because obviously you got your wheel here and you got your keyboard here. Or there. Right. So set that to G29. Yeah, got all that. Don't bother with those. You're not running any secondary feature. Subcontroller type wheel. Transmission real automatic. Yeah. You got simple automatic. That simple automatic is go forward with the accelerator, go backwards with the brake. Set it to real auto. Sequential, that's if you got like a sequential shifter, and obviously H shifters, H shifter. Set it to real auto. You've then got your steering sensitivity. Slide that way you want it. Non-linearity. That's like the more you turn, you know, it's like it's not 1 to 1. It starts at 1 to 1. It's like 1 to 2, then 1 to 3, and 1 to 4. Force feedback on. Slide them to how you want it. The inverter is important for acceleration axis. So joy brake. Look down option. I don't bother with that. I don't know what that's for actually. Same with look left, look right. Doesn't really matter. Doesn't really matter about those. H shifter setup. That's if you decide to do the H shifter route. You don't need to. So they're really useless to you. That's if I decide to go ahead and set up my shifter. Same with that there. I can just like stick it forwards or stick it backwards. Right. Oh, a bit under all those slides. There. 'If I press my accelerator now, you'll see that light up yellow. Same with the brake. And clutch. Damn it went. Then once you get down from about there, that's just personal preference. I mean, the Scania 12 plus 2, Volvo 12 plus 2, ZF 12 speed, and ZF 16. That's because I use a lot with the DAF. I tend to use 16 speeds on all the DAFs. Even the new one I brought, I put a 16 speed in it. Doesn't really matter about this, because that's a H shifter. If you're not using a H shifter, you don't need it. I did send you the settings pics. Ah, brilliant, brilliant. Fine tune these to your personal preference. But you'll find, because you're looking at a wheel in front of you, it'll be so much more natural to you. Let's go to Manchester. Or Perth. Manchester. Most of the time when I'm driving around, I've only usually got just like my palm of one hand on the wheel. Ah, there's another bug. It'll get to the point where it'll drive so natural. Yeah, it'll be fantastic. I've got a blue container on me. What you ought to do now as well is set up your keybinds, because it's gonna free up a lot of keys to you. Things like your cruise control, volume control, hazard lights, indicators, exhaust brake, headlights up or down, stuff like that, put on the wheel. It won't take you as long as you think to get used to it. That's why I say get used to it on single player. Set it up as well so it feels it's more in line. You don't want to keep it sort of offset. You want to try and keep it all straight down if you can. I mean, I'm a little bit restricted at where I am right now. And my chair is moving. Let's just pull over here for a second. So every time I get out of my chair, it kind of rotates around a bit. That's got quite a bit of front end overhang on this. Try not to do left foot braking as well. Just ignore your left foot. Your left foot doesn't exist. Right, how do you reverse? You need to keybind that. You need to set up a keybind. So go to your right. Escape. Go to your options. Now you go to keys and buttons. You've got, ignore those, because those are for keyboards. You're now using a wheel, so you don't need them. And you've got these here, shift up, shift down, shift to neutral. So, are you on a laptop or are you on a PC? That will depend on what you need to, how you need to set up. Because I've got a PC, so as you can see over here are my various controls. Can I take the webcam down physically? Bring it closer. No, but I can go to there. Right, let's just click on that. Right. Let's go to about half screen. There. Okay. Remind me on to set all this back up afterwards. Now set it to real auto. Trust me. Yeah, because what I've got here is I use my keys here. Forwards, neutral, reverse, sequential. Because if you set it to simple automatic and you get into sticky situations, it'll keep hopping gears. So you want to go for a real automatic. Shift up hint, shift down hint, which is like a bit of a sort of an override. And those are for lift axles and I think that's with diff locks actually. So what I do, if I want to go to reverse, can you hear that? We'll go forwards, put that there. Now if I put that into auto override mode, it's all like if we go inside, control. Should tell me what gear I'm in somewhere. There should be a little selector icon on it somewhere. There. See it going up now. What I've also done as well is I've got my flappies here. I shall change that back. So, la 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 la. Exhaust brake toggle. So I set that to B. And then light horn. Where's my light horn? There. So if I want to flash, so I can flash people quite nicely now by using that or my high beams. There. There's a switch on here somewhere. Oh yeah, and where are my wipers? What buttons control my bloody wipers? It does until you get used to it. Well, there are mods out there that allow you to change all the springs. Because there's a rubber stopper block in the brake pedal. And that makes it feel disconcerting. Because it goes up to that. And that's why it feels... My one feels totally different. Because I've changed all the springs about. Well, once you got used to it, it'll be great. I mean, you can alter your sensitivity as well on your brakes. Gameplay. Bum, 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 bum. Preferred length. How do you do it? Yeah, you got your braking intensity. Just alter that. Let me just TPC myself to Manchester. Then I'll hop over and do come on to Sim2 server. Right, where's me? Ah, it's where's it actually? Oh, RKWs. Where's RKW? do that because I don't get the fine then. I'll come down to the same one. I'll swap servers. Be easy if I come to you, because right, I'll just shrink that down. There. Because I've got to go up and do something anyway, so right. Bum 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 bum. That's Truxbook. Nah, Truxbook's already running, you dickhead. You muppet. ETS2 multiplayer. Sim 2, whichever's quieter, I think. Well, for now, while we get used to it, we'll go to the arcade server. That way, we can't do any harm then. So, meet you on the arcade. What, on the arcade server? Go to the arcade.